It was winter 2009 when they sent us north, 10 men chasing a transport plane that had vanished inside the Alaskan Triangle. That stretch of land from Anchorage to Juneau to Fairbanks has swallowed thousands before us. Planes, hunters, even whole villages, like the earth itself just takes what it wants. Our bird went down hard, and the snow wiped out our trail. Radios whispered our names, lights shifted in the tree line, and one by one, my brothers were gone. Days later, I stumbled onto an old trapper's cabin, half collapsed, stove still warm like somebody had just stepped out. That cabin kept me alive long enough to learn the truth. The triangle doesn't just kill, it keeps you. So before we continue, please make sure to like and subscribe to support the channel and comment down below where you're watching from. Thanks. I'll tell it straight, just what happened. I'm the one that walked out, the only one. 10 of us flew in, 1 came back. That's the math that kept me up for years. I've said the names in my head so many times they sound like gravel. We were out of the post near Fairbanks, cold that bites the teeth, crisp enough to hear boots pop on the snow. We were a mixed bag, search and rescue det that wore whatever hat the wheat needed. Mostly we hauled people out of ditches and down from ridges. Hunters who got turned around, climbers who thought the mountain was a mall escalator, pilots who tried to beat weather and lost, that kind of work. Nothing fancy, but it kept you honest. You learn to respect the land up here. It's old. It doesn't care if you got rank. They called the missing plane Grizzly 1, a transport. Big, loud, slow. They said it left Elmendorf down south and should have been up by Eelson fast. Weather window was good enough, they said, but the window slammed shut. No mayday, then nothing. The triangle swallowed it. Locals call it the Alaskan Triangle like it's a joke. Anchorage to Juneau to Fairbanks. Whole wedge of map that eats people and spits out rumors. You hear the numbers over beers. Thousands gone since God knows when. Flights, hikers, whole villages once. Folks shrugged. The land takes what it wants. That's the line. Command kicked us a scratch map in a low voice. Not a briefing. More like a warning said too late. He pointed at the radius where the plane stopped talking and said, "Find it before the next storm hits or we'll be looking in spring." Not great odds. Still better than shivering in a tent, I said, and people laughed like they were supposed to. We were 10. Lieutenant Cole, fresh bar, still shiny. Thought the Kolb respected plans, top reyes, old school. The kind of first sergeant who could put a platoon back together with spit and tape. Me, most folks call me Mac. Doc Patel, smarter than the rest of us and mean when he had to be. Harris with the radio, big ears, big mouth. Ski with the machine gun. A Polish farm boy who could carry a truck on his back. Nguyen, quiet, moved like smoke. O'Rourke with the demo bag and the bad jokes. Levi on the long gun and the 1,000-yard stare. Torres on point because he loved the woods more than people. 10 of us, plus whatever pilots and crew they slapped on our bird. That part wasn't our world. Our world was the ground, normal life before we lifted, coffee burnt black, diesel breath from the trucks. Half-assed jokes about moose and ex-wives, fingers stiff in gloves, boots creaking, night vision checked, flicker test, green glow like pond water. Radios checked. I said radios, not numbers and letters. Keep it simple, batteries fresh. Knots checked. Layered up to where your own voice sounded muffled. I saw Nguyen roll a smoke he wouldn't light. Habit, he said. He kept it behind his ear. Lucky thing. We made bets on who'd find the plane. Ski said he'd smell the spilled jet fuel first. The pilots brought the bird up easy, no tarmac drama. Just a rise and a turn into a sky cut with slow green bands. Aurora hung like a bruise stretched thin. We strapped in and pretended this was another milk run. My gut felt like before a fight. Not fear. Not yet. Just you could feel the big quiet under everything. I glanced at Top. He stared out the open door like he was reading the sky. He didn't blink much. He always said the land talks. You just have to shut up long enough to hear it. We flew into the cut of the mountains, ridges like broken teeth. Snow in the gullies blue as veins. The bird rode the wind like a drunk picking a fight. The pilot said something about instruments being fussy. He laughed after he said it. Laugh didn't sound right. Harris tapped his radio even though it was fine. Static hissed, but that's the way of things up here. The air itself is noise. Little things nagged. The cold had taste. Metallic, pennies on the tongue. The air smelled like freezer burn and old campfires that never happened. My night vision flickered once. Not bad, just a blink. The green went a little dim and then came back. The pilot said the compass liked to dance around here. He said it like a joke, but he had that look. The one where your mouth is doing something your eyes don't believe. I saw lights on the ice below. Thin, pale, like foxfire. Could have been refraction. Could have been snowmobiles from some trapper 100 years dead. Could have been my head. I didn't tell anyone. You keep some things in your pocket until you're sure. Harris listened to the radio like it had gossip. He squinted at nothing. You hear that? He asked. Static, I said. Thought I heard my name, he said, smiling like it was a joke. Say again, Top said, turning. Nothing. Just looking for something to break the boredom. Harris rubbed the side of his head. He did that when he had a headache. Lieutenant Cole was reading the map like it owed him money. He had lines and circles and a plan that assumed the land would sit still and let him work. He was a decent kid, not stupid. Just new to the idea that nature doesn't care if you made captain in your head. The bird shuddered. Not turbulence. More like a dog trying to shake off a collar. I glanced at the pilot. He went quiet. His hands moved quick. The crew chief gave us a thumb we didn't believe. Power's dropping, the pilot said. Not loud. Just a fact. We're getting iced in places that shouldn't ice. Top leaned forward. Pick a flat spot. We'll walk. Copy, the pilot said. He used his radio voice like it made the air obey. The horizon tilted, then straightened. Below us, the land opened into a long white bowl with a frozen river wound like a rope. Trees at the edges like black hair. The snow was too smooth, no drifts. No ripples, like somebody ironed it. The hair on my arms stood up under 4 layers. The bird coughed. Lights on the panel winked like bad eyes. Brace, the crew chief said. He didn't shout. He said it like he'd said it 100 times and this was just another one. We leaned in and grabbed hard things and tried not to think about soft things like throats and eyes. The landing wasn't a landing. It was a crash that decided to be kind at the last second. Skid slammed. The tail swung. We scraped sideways and threw up a wave of ice dust that tasted like old coins. The blade slowed with a whine that felt wrong in my teeth. Then silence. Not silence. Something else. The kind of quiet that has weight. The kind that makes you feel like you're in a church after hours and the candles are still warm. The kind that makes your skin forget it belongs to you. We tumbled out, counted heads, 10 on the ground. The crew didn't move. The pilot had that slump that says it's over. Crew chief too. Neck at an angle, nature doesn't do. Doc went to them and then just stopped. He shook his head. His eyes flipped to me and then away. We made a ring without talking. That's training. That's survival. Our breath made clouds that hung too long. The frost on the bird didn't look like normal frost. It crawled. Not like it moved, but like it had grown in the shape of ferns and ribs and letters I didn't know. The windows had frost veins that ran in patterns like writing from a dead tribe. I wiped a glove across one. The cold bit through like a knife, left a pale burn on the leather. It didn't flake. It clung. Get the kid off, Top said, voice steady. He pointed. People moved. We stripped batteries, pulled out sleds, ropes, food, heat tabs, flares, the stuff that keeps you less dead than you should be. We took shelter from a wind that wasn't there. I kept looking up because I felt watched. No birds, no ravens. Up here, even on a bad day, ravens come to watch you be stupid. Nothing now. Just a sky that leaned in. Harris called our base on the radio. Crackle. He swung the antenna around. Crackle. Then a voice that sounded like cold glass. I couldn't make words. I heard rhythm. Then I heard my own name. Clear as a bell dropped into a well. Mac. I looked at Harris. Say again, Top asked. Got you, base, say again, Harris said. His face went pale under his beard. He didn't look at me. He didn't have to. Lieutenant Cole put on his officer face. We knew comms would be bad. We set a rally point. We move. The longer we stand, the colder we get. Our bird is done. We hike. We find Grizzly 1. We mark it. We signal. No one argued. Moving is life. Out here, you either walk or you die. We set the pilots aside, covered them with a poncho and snow. Said the words people say even if they don't believe. Top touched the frost on the canopy again. He frowned like a bird hearing thunder. "Don't touch that again," he said. "It feels wrong." We left the chem light stuck in a piece of rotor. The glow looked tired. We chopped our way off the slick and into the bowl. That's when Torres stopped and pointed. At first I saw nothing. Then I saw the single line of footprints across the bowl. Not ours. Smaller. Smaller. 2 even. Like a kid stepping heel to toe to make a game. They came out of the trees, crossed the bowl, stopped 10 steps from the helicopter, then ended. No turn, no backtrack. Just ended like the person took one more step up into the air and kept going. "Wind," Cole said. "No wind," Nguyen said. We stared. "You don't like your brain to break this early." We pretended it didn't matter. We moved. We tracked the last coordinates we had for Grizzly 1. Terrain rolls weird up here. The land looks flat until your ankle rolls, and you realize you've been walking the side of a wave for a mile. Trees were thin. Black spruce. They looked like scarecrows that lost a bet. The river was a white ribbon with dark seams where the current chewed at the ice. We crossed on a bend where the ice sounded hollow. The kind of sound that makes your gut step back. Harris fiddled with the radio. Sometimes he got a voice that sounded like it was breathing underwater. Sometimes he got whispers that knew our names. Sometimes nothing. Every time he flinched when it said a name right. By afternoon, the sky went the color of steel. The light up here is a mean friend. Gives you just enough and then takes it away fast. We made the ridge the map wanted. Snow up past the knee in places and crusted in others. Levi said he could smell fuel. We found it in a stand of spruce that leaned away like the plane was a stove too hot. Grizzly 1 lay split and half buried. Not a crater. It looked like it set down gentle and then broke itself apart in shame. The tail section was gone. The nose was crooked into a hump. The wings were bent like elbows. I expected bodies. I've found planes before. It's never pretty, but there's an order to disaster. Belts, seats, people where people should be, not here. Seats were empty, belts latched. Coffee cup in the galley frozen into a shape like a wave. Cards on a table glued to the green with a glaze of ice that grew in feather patterns. Frost climbed the walls in those same ribs and letters. Instruments in the cockpit misted with that strange frost. The needles ticked now and then like they were dreaming. Doc checked the cargo bay. No blood, no footprints inside, no prints outside. We made circles around the fuselage like dogs sniffing a new thing. "Maybe they walked out," Cole said. He needed it to be true. "Where?" Torres asked. He pointed to the snow as smooth as a sheet pulled tight. "Where did they go? The storm didn't hit yet." "Maybe the wind wiped it," Cole said again, softer. Ski shook his head. "Snow tells the truth. Always does." Top reached out and touched the frost on the inside wall with his bare fingertip. We all hissed at him. He pulled back fast, sucked his finger. A white mark bloomed like frostbite that only took a kiss to make. "Feels like wrong cold," he said, "like it wants more." We set a perimeter. Standard drill. Light discipline. Noise discipline. We kept our voices low like the plane was asleep. Harris kept twisting the radio knob like he was trying to peel a sticker. Static. Then a voice. "Levi," it said, clear and sweet like a girl calling across a field. We all looked at Levi. He scowled. "Don't say my name again," he told Harris. "It wasn't me," Harris said. He looked small all of a sudden, big man shrinking into his parka like a kid hiding from a belt. We found a clipboard wedged under a seat. Flight notes. The last page had a scrawl. Not neat. The ink trailed like the pen was fighting. The words read, "Singing in the snow." Then a line. Then, "Don't answer when it knows your name." Then scratch marks. Then what looked like a set of boxes drawn over and over, like a square inside a square inside a square. "Cute," O'Rourke said. He tried to laugh. The sound stuck. Sun tipped. The cold deepened. We made a stove. The flame burned weird, low and steady, like someone was sitting on it. The heat reached the hands and stopped. didn't bother the bones. We ate chalky bars and pretended they were beef stew. Nguyen took first watch with Torres. I tried to sleep. The inside of my eyelids had lights now, little points that pulsed when I breathed. I drifted and dreamed of a white room with no door. Someone inside called my name, but the sound came from the floor. A scream woke me. Not long, sharp. Levi. We were up and out in heartbeats. Snow squealed under boots. Our breaths hung like ghosts. Levi had been 20 steps out. Watching the south line, his footprints walked out. Heel to toe. Even. Confident. They ended the stride later. Nothing else. No fall. No drag. No churn. The last step was clean, and then it was air. The snow in the last print was already hardening, edges soft like an old scar. We shouted his name. We shouldn't have. No one answered. The trees leaned closer. The night listened. Tripod. Flares, Top said. He was ice calm, even if his eyes were not. We threw up a tripod light with a shield and popped a flare. The light went up, then guttered like someone pinched it. The smoke made shapes. I saw faces. I did not say that out loud. Cole swallowed hard. We hold. We write this up. We move, Top said. We don't camp in a mouth. He pointed at the plane. This thing is a bait pile. We're on it. We packed like hell was at our heels. Maybe it was. We left the marker. We started toward the river because moving water felt like a line, and a line felt like a rule. We learned fast. We learned rules the hard way. First rule, don't say a name. The thing in the radio liked names. It collected them. It polished them. It said them back and made you turn your head. It sounded like your mother or your girl or your son. Second rule, tie in. We rigged a rope and clipped in with 20 feet between each man. It felt good to feel someone else on the line. Weight means you're not alone. Third rule, don't look at the lights. There were lights now. Thin, white-blue. They hung at the edge of vision like sea ice catching sun. If you looked, they moved. If you didn't, they drifted like lazy moths. We moved along the river. Snow squeaked. The sky went deep black fast. Aurora dragged like oil paint. The temperature dropped the way a trapdoor drops. The radio whispered. It said Top. Then it said Reyes. It said them too sweet. We ignored it. Harris breathed through his mouth and stared at the ground so long his lashes frosted. Why the rope? Cole asked, voice small in the hood. Because we're fishing, Top said. And I don't want to be the bait. We passed a stand of birch where the bark peeled like paper tongues. The wind went through and the bark whispered. It sounded like the word come over and over, but that could have been my head. We made a fire that didn't make a circle of safety. It made a circle of light and nothing stepped into it. The heat came to the skin and stopped. The cold sat in the bones and grinned. We slept in shifts. Every time I closed my eyes, the lights ran behind my lids. I saw the frost letters from the plane. I tried to cram them into my mouth so I couldn't read them anymore. In the morning, if it was morning, the sky went a color that pretended to be day. We pushed on. The river widened and then narrowed into a throat of rock. There was a flat where the snow had strange ripples, like waves frozen in place. In the middle of the flat was a circle burned into the snow. Not black, just bare. Like the snow had decided not to be there. In the bare circle, frost had grown in thick feathers and plates. In the middle of that was a square frame of ice. Inside the square was another. Then another, the pattern from the clipboard. O'Rourke crouched. I don't like this, he said. He took a stick and poked the edge of the square. The stick froze like a snap. It frosted up his glove too. He shook it off and swore. It eats heat, he said. That's what it does. It eats it like candy. Doc said, everything does that up here. O'Rourke stared at him. Not like this, man. We heard a voice from the trees. Mac, it said. My name a soft knife. I didn't turn. I felt the rope tug through my carabiner as someone on my left shifted. Don't, I said. Eyes front. The voice tried again, a different shape. My father. A man dead since I was a kid. Mark, it said now, not Mac. Only my father calls me that in my head. Top lifted his chin. It wants us to talk back, he said. Don't feed it. We moved. The rope dragged. We kept the line tight. The light slid back and forth, always just at the corners. At second camp, Harris cracked. It was the voice that did it. He called him in his wife's tone, and he said her name. He didn't mean to. It was a gasp, a reflex. The radio squealed. The line went tight, then slack. Harris was there, then he wasn't. The carabiner dangled, sliced, clean cut. No sound but the wind making words in our hoods. Top swore once. A word that tasted like iron. He didn't say Harris's name. None of us did. We clipped short now. 10 feet between us, knees brushing snow, eyes forward. We tested the lights like idiots. Levi had said, shoot them. He was gone, but the idea stayed. Ski fired 2 short bursts at a pale shape by the trees. The rounds made little black kisses on the snow. The light folded, then stretched thin like taffy and slid away. The rounds didn't matter here. It wasn't about holes in blood. We learned another rule. Fire helps if you feed it with old wood. New wood burns wrong. It makes a smoke that makes shapes. Old wood pops and snaps like normal. The sound pulls your head back to this world. We burned a cabin ruin we found. Just the stack of a stove and timbers like old bones. Someone had lived here once. Someone had left in a hurry or not at all. We didn't look for a grave. We had enough ghosts. Doc found a sled track. Deep, then shallow, then gone. As if the sled went over the bank and kept going into the air. He didn't say anything. He just put his hand on my shoulder for a second and squeezed. That's how we did grief out here. By the 3rd day, if it was days, we had dropped 3 more. Nguyen with no sound. Torres with a single laugh that wasn't his. O'Rourke left a glove behind, and Doc picked it up like it was his hand and put it in his pocket like it mattered to keep warm. We were 5 now. Me, Top, Goal, Doc, Ski. We didn't say names. We didn't say numbers. We breathed and counted heartbeats and kept the rope tight. The world got small. It shrank to the rope, to the next boot print, to the sound your own breath makes when you're trying not to cry. The sky hung low. The aurora washed the snow in sick colors. Green, violet. The lights we weren't supposed to look at got bold. They came closer. They slid over the rope sometimes and it went cold under our gloves. We jerked our hands back and then put them back because there was nothing else to hold. We tried the sat phone. It spat numbers that changed every time we looked. The compass spun. The map felt like an insult. We passed a line of traps, old steel jaws, rusted, set in fresh snow. No tracks near them, no bait. They were closed. Something had sprung them. The iron had frost patterns on it that looked like ribs again, like whatever this was, new bones and liked them. Doc started muttering prayers in a language I didn't know. He wore a string with a little copper charm around his neck. He tucked it under his shirt like he was hiding it from the sky. Cole tried to take charge. He tried to bring us into a huddle and make plans talk. Top stared him down. Save your breath, he said. Your breath is heat. It wants that. That got into our heads. Words became coins we didn't want to spend. We walked in a line and only spoke if snow hit a rock or ice sang underfoot. We spoke with tugs on the rope more than mouths. At some point we came back to a tree I knew we'd seen. I'd notched it with my knife without thinking. A habit from a deer hunt when I was a kid. The notch was there, fresh. The snow around it had our tracks and then didn't. The new snow was smooth, as if we hadn't walked it. The notch stared like an eye. Looping, I said. I hated spelling the word. Top nodded once. It's tightening the string, he said. He touched the knot at his waist. We cut across the river. It won't like the cold that moves. We hit the river. The ice boomed under us like someone hitting a drum with a fist. We spread thin. We went quiet in our feet. The lights followed. They stayed higher above the river like they wanted to, but couldn't sink into the moving dark under the ice. Halfway, a voice called Top in his daughter's tone. He staggered. He whispered her name. The rope jerked. Ski grabbed him with a grunt and wrapped his arms around his chest like a tackle. Top cried. Just a choking sound. He didn't disappear that time. Not then. The river wanted him to, but Ski's arms were a rule, and the thing hadn't learned that one yet. When we reached the far bank, we found a lake that wasn't on the map. A round bowl. Ice black as an eye. No snow on it at all. just a skin that reflected the sky wrong. The lights hovered over it like bees over a comb. In the middle of the lake, the ice dipped like a saucer pressed into dough. The dip went down to a dark that made my teeth ache to look at. "That's a no," Doc said. He backed up till the rope tugged him forward again. Cole pointed like orders could move the world. "We skirt it," he said. "We don't step on it. We listen," Top said. We listened. There was a hum. Deep, not sound. More like a pressure on the bones. The frost on our gear grew in feathers. The air got thicker, like breathing through wool. The lights pulsed in time with the hum. "Origin," I said, using another coin. "That's the mouth." Top nodded slow. His eyes were red. "We can't go around it. It's too big," he said, "and it knows we're here. It knows our numbers. It knows our—" He stopped before he said names. We pulled back into the trees to think. That's when Ski vanished. No sound. The line went slack and his carabiner came back ghost cold in my hand. The cut was clean. Top closed his eyes. He held the line like you hold a hand you can't let go of. 4 now. Me, Top. B, Top. Cole. Doc. The world got even smaller. We could feel the hum in our teeth. It rattled our bones. The frost on our sleeves grew in spines that scraped when we moved. We tried to make a big fire. It didn't help. It ate fuel and burped smoke and warmed only our anger. Doc took out a pack of salt he kept for melting ice in wounds and threw a handful at the edge of the lake. It hissed and made a pattern I didn't want to recognize. Squares inside squares inside squares. "That's not science," Doc said, voice cracking. "That's theater." I dug in my pack. O'Rourke had left a bundle of charges, not big. Just enough to crack ice, or a door, or a bad idea. I looked at Top. He nodded once like he'd been waiting. We made a plan that wasn't a plan. We'd bring the rope in tight. We'd put the charges on the edge of the dip. We'd light and run back to the trees. We'd hope that if the mouth drank heat, a hot mouthful would choke it. "Bad plan," Cole said. He wasn't wrong. He didn't have a better one. He looked younger than he had in the hangar. The cold had rubbed the shine off him. What was left was a kid who wanted to go home. We moved to the edge. The ice hummed louder. The lights came close. They were not lights now. They were shapes full of light. Thin forms like people made of frost, the edges blurry, the middles empty. They tilted their heads. They moved like they remembered walking from a long time ago and were trying it again. One of them was Levi's shape. I knew it by the slope of the shoulders. It didn't have a face, but the tilt of the head was him. It cocked to the left. It said nothing. It did me too. My hands shook so hard I almost dropped the charge. "Don't look," Top said, voice raw. We didn't look. We looked at the ice. We set the charges in a line like teeth. The hum went high, like a wire pulled too tight. The lights pressed in. They touched the rope and frost ran up the fibers toward our hands. We could feel it wanting the heat in our wrists, in our mouths, behind our eyes. It felt like grief, if grief was a weather. I jammed the last charge into a seam where the dip began. The fuse was short because I was out of patience and good sense. Top covered me with his body like a father would. Doc held the rope with both hands, the veins in his neck standing out like cords. Cole whispered something over and over. Might have been a song. Might have been his mother's name. I don't know. I didn't ask. Words were coins. We were bankrupt. "Light," Top said. I lit. The flame bit blue and then white. It looked wrong in this place. It looked like a lie. We ran. The rope yanked. The lights moved. They came fast now, like blades. The hum drilled. My vision went narrow. Snow under boots. Breath like knives. The lake bloomed. Light from under. Dark above. The charges went. No boom. Just a crack that ran like a scream. The dip slumped. Ice broke inward. Big plates sliding like jawbones. Water came up black and slow and then too fast. It hit the cold air and turned to knives of frost mid-splash. The lights flared as if someone poured gasoline on ghosts. They twisted. They tried shapes. Faces, hands, mouths. The sound was not a sound. Was not a sound. It was every name I'd ever been called, said it once and still hungry. The rope jerked hard. Cole went light on it. He slid toward the lip like a man pulled by a string tied to his bones. I threw myself down and wrapped my arms and legs around a root. Top did the same with a rock. Doc wrapped the rope around his waist and leaned back with a grunt that sounded like a dying engine. Cole screamed one word, a name that was probably his own. He shouldn't have. The lights surged. They hit him like a wave of cold fire. He went stiff, then he went loose. The rope went slack, and the end popped into my hands with a cut too clean to be honest. Doc swore in the prayer language and then in mine. The hum dropped, then it rose. The lights swam above the broken ice like fish in syrup. They were mad now. Not angry. Something older than that. Something that wanted rules and couldn't find them. Back, Top said. He pushed me. Tree line. Go. We went. The trees were 20 paces. Might as well have been a mile. The snow had that trick where every step gives you nothing. The rope snagged on a stump that hadn't been there. It bit my wrist. It went cold fast. Frost ran into my glove and bit skin. I yanked. Skin tore. The blood steamed, and the steam froze and fell as glitter. I laughed. Short and wrong. Sometimes fear makes you a fool and a poet at once. The tree line swallowed us. The light stopped at the first shadow like something invisible had a rule they didn't like. They waved there. They pressed. They thinned. They stretched. They stretched. They wanted. The hum went back to low. Top leaned against the trunk and slid down. His breath was coming in ragged saws. He looked at me. We didn't need the count. Doc sat down hard and held his hands like they were not his. He had frost burns in the pattern of the rope on his palms. He smiled a small smile that said, "Humor is a knife we cut despair with." Then the radio, quiet for a stretch, spoke. It said my name, not the way friends say it, not the way the dead try it. It said it like a doctor in a hallway. Mac, it said. Then another voice. Top's daughter, clear as a Sunday. Papa, she said. Doc flinched like he'd been slapped. He looked at Top. Top shook his head like a dog trying to throw off water. He swallowed. He whispered, "No." The rope went light where Top was. Just a breath. Then light again. Then light again. Then gone. The cut end fell like snow. He didn't even have time for a last look. Maybe that was kind. Maybe not. The tree at his back had frost writing on it where his shoulders had been. Squares inside squares. Two now, me and Doc. The world was as small as it gets. The hum settled low like a cat on your chest you can't move. The lights drifted above the lake, patient again. The rope in my hands was a dead snake. Doc laughed once and cried into it. "We can't leave them," he said. He didn't mean the bodies. There were no bodies. He meant the names. "We leave whatever this is on this lake," I said. "We don't take it home." He nodded. He wiped his face with the back of his glove. The glove hissed against his skin. Frost took more of him. He didn't say anything about it. He was a medic. He had a list of bad ways to die. This was new, and he hated that. We cut the rope clean at both our waists. We put the ends in the fire and watched the frost hiss. We took what we had left in charges, which was not much, and we stuffed them in the cracks the first line had opened. This time we'd go closer and push more down. This time we would make it swallow something it didn't want. We crawled on our bellies to the edge like hunters. The lights hovered. They dipped like curious crows. They didn't grab because some rule still held. Maybe not looking too close kept us in a different page of the book. Doc worked with a comb I loved him for. He tucked the charges like he tucked bandages. Gentle, precise. He looked at me and nodded once. It meant everything. On three, I said. We light. We go. We lit. The fuse smelled like a firecracker. Stupid memory in a bad place. We turned to run. The ice sang. It sounded like a wine glass you could drink a scream from. The lights folded. They reached. One brushed Doc's boot. He froze. Not like exaggeration, like statue. Frost ran up his leg under the fabric like spiders under a sheet. He looked at me and I saw the kid from med school who had wanted to help and found himself here instead. His eyes said sorry. Then they said my name. He didn't speak it. The lights did. They tasted it. They liked it. They liked it. I grabbed him. I put my shoulder under his ribs. I dragged. The rope was gone. All we had was me. He was heavy with cold. His breath fogged once, then twice, then stopped. The charges went. The lake opened like a mouth opened too wide, and the hinge broke. The black came up and the lights dove down like birds into a river. The hum pinched high and broke. For a heartbeat, the air was clear. Cold. Honest cold. Honest cold. I felt my own heat again. I felt my fingers and hated that they hurt. I dragged Doc into the shadow of the trees. His skin went from glass to meat. He gasped once. He looked surprised. He said, "Mama," in a voice from somewhere else. Then he went out like a candle pinched between wet fingers. He was gone, not taken. Just gone the way we all go. I don't know if that was the thing, or the charges, or the cold, or the God he prayed to. I know he was dead, and I was not. The lights came back up, weaker now. Fewer. They drifted like jellyfish after a storm. They didn't surge. They watched. I watched back through my eyelashes. You learn that trick at night. Look at the edge of things and you see more. I didn't say goodbye. Words were heat, and I had none to spare. I took Doc's copper charm because I couldn't stand leaving it. I put it around my neck and it bit my skin. It felt hot. That made no sense. It felt like a good lie, so I kept it. I turned my back on the lake and I walked into the trees. I walked like old men do. Careful, angry. I didn't look back. The hum receded. The lights thinned, the frost on my sleeves went to normal. The kind that tinkled when you brushed it. The kind that has rules you know. I don't remember how long I walked. I walked until the world had edges again. The sky turned from velvet to steel to velvet. I saw a trapper's lean-to. A pile of wood that wasn't rotten. A metal drum with a lid. Inside the drum, food that hadn't spoiled because this place is a freezer with a broken thermostat. The lean-to had a little cross carved in the beam. Someone had been here. Someone had left it for someone like me with a prayer attached. I sat. I ate with my gloves off and my hands bled and the blood froze and I licked it like salt. I slept with my back to the fire and my face in my hands like a child. When I woke, there were tracks. Not mine, not human, not human. They circled the lean-to once and then ended halfway to the spruce. No drag, no backtrack, just ended. I closed my eyes and breathed until the anger felt like warmth instead of poison. Then I packed. Then I walked. The first voice I heard that wasn't mine was on the radio. I had kept it dead to save batteries and sanity. I turned it on because I wanted to hear something that had rules. A scratch. Then a voice, clipped, formal, not a ghost. A patrol I knew by the cadence if not the names. They were looking for us. They were late, or I was early. Time had been chopped and stirred and I was tasting it now. I gave a position I couldn't know. My mouth said it. My head didn't. The patrol cursed in a way that made me smile. Men who know they might have found a body and instead found a voice. They told me to signal. I burned a flare. It went up and didn't gutter. It made a normal smoke that didn't have faces in it. I laughed in a way that made me sound like someone else. Trucks came as far as they could. Men came the rest. Not my men. Men with new faces and the right kind of fear. They found me sitting on a stump like a bad luck statue. They said things in the right order. Are you injured? Can you walk? Can you answer? Do you know your name? I lied about the last one. I said it out loud. I watched the trees to see if anything moved. They put me on a sled and pulled me to the trucks, and the trucks carried me to the post where coffee tasted like a miracle and the shower water felt like knives in a good way. They took my clothes and my gear and my words. A captain with a soft voice and hard eyes asked me to say it from the top. I did. He didn't write the parts that mattered. He wrote weather, he wrote disorientation, he wrote environmental hazard, he wrote probable hypothermia. He wrote about the plane as if it had simply melted into the snow like a drunk going to sleep. He wrote my friends' names on a list that would be carved later in stone. He didn't write the humming, or the lights, or the rope that goes cold like a hand you loved. A man in a suit I never saw on post before came in and asked if anyone had called my name. I stared at him until he looked away. He said some places have anomalies. He said there are zones where instruments misbehave. He said the word misbehave like he was talking to a dog. He asked me if I would sign a paper that said I remembered wrong. I didn't sign it. I didn't argue either. I said I was tired. That was true. He took that and folded it into his story. They gave me a medal for not dying. They folded the flag for the others and put it in boxes with the right names on brass. Families cried at the right times. A chaplain said the right words. Mysteries we will never understand, he said. He had no idea. At night, I heard the radio, not the one on the shelf. The one in my head. It said names. It said them soft. It said them the way you stir soup. It saved mine back for last. When it got there, I put my hands over my ears and sang. I sang the dumb songs from Basic that have no room for ghosts. I sang until my throat hurt and I fell asleep sitting up like a drunk in a bus station. I moved south for a while, thought maybe distance is medicine. It helped some. The air tasted different. The sky didn't hang so low. But winter follows you if it wants to. In a motel in Idaho, I woke to frost on the inside of the window in patterns like ferns and ribs, squares inside squares. I breathed on it and it melted and came back. I took Doc's copper charm off once, just to see. The room got colder. I put it back and the heat remembered me. I don't have the science for that. I have proof. That's enough. I went back to Alaska anyway. The land is like a woman you fought with, and next morning you realize you love the fight more than the peace. I came back because I'm stubborn and because I didn't want the last word between me and that place to be a scream. I don't go to that lake. I don't go near that river. I don't say names up there. Folks think I'm rude. I'm saving them breath. You'll ask why me? Why I walked out? I don't know. Maybe it only needed 9. Maybe I didn't give it my name at the right time and the right tone. Maybe Doc's charm did something real. Maybe Top made the trade in the last second and I was the coin. Maybe it needed a mouth in the world to talk with, and it left mine. The worst thing I think is this. Maybe it let me go because I would tell the story. Maybe stories are heat, and it eats that too. Sometimes in the right kind of cold, the radio in my truck picks up a whisper even with the power off. I'll be alone on a road that goes straight at a mountain like a dare, and the speaker will click and say Mac in a voice like a penny on your tongue. I don't answer. I change the station to something with a twang, and I sing like a man who doesn't believe in ghosts. Sometimes the frost takes the shape of letters on my windshield, not hours. Old. My skin goes tight and my mouth fills with the taste of old coins. I drive until the heater wins and the letters slide away. If you want a moral, I don't have one. I have rules. Don't say a name out there. Don't look straight at the lights. Don't camp in a mouth. Tie in, but know that rope's cut. Fire helps, but feed it with old wood if you can. Don't waste words. They are heat. If the air tastes like pennies, go home. If the frost grows in ferns that look like ribs, go the other way. If you find footprints that end in the middle of a step, don't follow. Don't think you'll be the one who gets the why. You'll only get the gone. Years later, every time I see an aurora smeared across the sky like a bruise, I think of Levi tilting his head like a question. I think of Harris half smiling before the radio said his name. I think of Nguyen's unlit smoke behind his ear. Of Torres counting trees like they were old friends. Of O'Rourke tapping the charge with 2 fingers like a man checking a horse's flank. Of ski wrapping Top like a tackle and winning 1 round we didn't deserve. Of Doc's hands steady while his heart rattled. Of Top saying the land talks and you have to shut up to hear it. I shut up now. I listen. The land talks. Sometimes it sings. Sometimes the snow itself hums. And if you're ever up here and some joker at a bar says the triangle is a story to scare tourists, buy him a beer, laugh with him, then go back to your room and pack. Drive south. Take a ferry. Walk if you have to. Live with the shame of running. Better that than the other thing. Because I know why they never returned. Not because I found bodies. Not because I found proof in a lab. I know because I left 9 men in a place that eats names and doesn't leave crumbs, and I feel them in the cold like the ache in old scars when a storm comes. That place is not a legend, it's a mouth. And sometimes it remembers you, sometimes it says your name. When it does, don't answer. So that's the end of our video. If you made it this far, make sure to hit like and subscribe. It really helps the channel and it's free. And if you want more terrifying encounters like this one, Check out the other videos on screen right now. Thanks for watching and stay safe out there. See you soon.